is polished. So what drove me to polishing the Airstream was that I was getting ready to add the solar panels on this side, and these are larger panels and they're going to cover part of the aluminum on this side. And I was thinking I should probably put some type of clear coat over these sections just to protect them for the future. But then I started to really look at the shell. These duller areas of the Airstream are what they call sunburned, and this side of the Airstream has a lot of that, especially on the side panel. And if you look closely, there's a lot of swirl marks and scratches. And I wasn't planning on polishing the Airstream anytime soon. I could deal with this later, and then I really got to looking at it and thinking about it and like what goes into polishing the Airstream and how the various parts can get damaged in the process of polishing. And if I did put on new sealants now, would I have to take them off when I do the polishing? And that stuff's not easy to get on or off, so it's a little bit more difficult and time consuming to do it again in the future. So I did spend a considerable amount of my free time researching on the whole process, and unfortunately, I'm sorry to give you this, but I don't feel like I have any more answers than I did back in August. But I obviously had made many decisions and did a lot of things in those few months. Started by removing all of what was left of the clear coat that was still on the Airstream. I used a fancy orange paint stripper and slathered it on one afternoon and removed it with a pressure washer the next day. If you do this yourself, just know that the paint stripper will damage the plastic components on the trailer, so you should cover those up before you do this. And make sure you really get them cleaned up after you've pressure washed it, because even just like the remnants after having pressure washed it off did damage the plastic parts. I made this mistake on a few of my taillights, and I'm really upset with myself about it.
For the record, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Then I began to polish the Airstream. I took a deep breath and just went for it. I'm using a variable speed polisher with the brown EE compound for this first round of polishing. The first round was by far the longest and hottest part of this whole process. It takes a lot of time and patience to get that sunburn to a nice shine again. At the end of the first round, it looked significantly better. The sunburn spottiness and a good deal of the filiform corrosion was cleaned up, but it looked like this. The hash marks are clearly visible in the sun, and out of the sun it looked a lot better, but at this point I was terrified I'd made the wrong decision. Most people use an expensive dual head orbital polisher that seems very finicky and more time consuming than the polisher I'd used, but the dual head orbital polisher would have meant that there wouldn't have been these aggressive hash marks. But after a lot more YouTubing, I just kept telling myself to just trust the process, just trust the process, just trust it. So I cleaned off all of the brown compound with some mineral spirits and began the second round of polishing, this time with a green polishing compound. I will say, for the record, I used a couple of major polishing compound rivals during the entire process, and I don't think that I really saw a difference in the different compounds, so just food for thought if you're doing this too. Quite quickly, those larger, more aggressive hash marks began to fade, but they were definitely not completely gone. There's still some lighter, less aggressive hash marks here on the second stage. And if you notice here, I'm trying my hardest not to get my sweaty arm on the polished aluminum, because every single touch, every smudge, and even little raindrop left a little mark on the Airstream that had to be repolished off. You heard me. I had to repolish the second coat when it rained or if anyone touched the Airstream. At the end of the second stage, the hash marks were significantly less noticeable, but it was still there. So even though I didn't plan on doing it, I went ahead with the third stage, which is a random orbital polisher to get the last of the hash marks to clear up. While there are still some small or odd swirl marks in parts of it, it looks so much better. And it's a lot of fun to play around with the mirror shine for a few weeks while I thought about what I wanted to do with my now-polished Airstream. Even the now-polished Airstream, every time someone touched it, it did leave smudge marks. So I knew I didn't want to leave it just unprotected, and that's maybe where I made my big mistake.
I painted it, and I hate it, like with a passion, hate it. It's just a clear coat, but I did a horrendous job, and it looks awful. So I called the paint manufacturer I use, and I had a good long talk with them, and they recommended another coat, sanding down my really, really bad spots, and getting another coat on there, using a different sprayer than the one I used. So we're gonna give it one more coat, and if I still hate it, I'm probably gonna cry. I got my feet on a cloud and